Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasoda Nandana Vrajachana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Yasoda Nandana Vrajachana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Vrajachana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihare 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 Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Yasoda Nandana Vrajachana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Vrajachana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnu
Vaishnava Paramahamsa Bhagacharya Jadadada Shishima Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vindi Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sagar Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasi Bhura Bhaktavinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kuniviran Ki Jai Vrindavandam Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navritam Ki Jai Thagnapuri Dham Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktandi Ki Jai Gaura Pramanandi. All glories to the assembly devotees. All glories to the assembly devotees. All glories to the assembly devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Pranamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtajari Satarine. So we continue with the Transcendental Diary by Hari Sauri Prabhu. And Prabhupada is still in Vrindavan Dham. Prabhupada also proved that they open a separate bank account for the Gurukula, for which Bhagaji and Rupa Vilas will be the signers. Organizational business finished, Jagadish moved on to the question of the discipline. He had one of the older boys specifically in mind, 13-year-old Jagaman Das, who came here to the Vrindavan Gurukula after a spell in the Mayapur school. Jagaman, he explained, comes from a troubled background, although his mother is a nice devotee. But the boy has been a great disturbance in the school and is practically uncontrollable. He is given to telling frequent lies, and according to Jagadish, he terrorizes the other boys, misleads them, and Jagadish fears will spoil them if he remains as he is. Yashodananda Maharaj corroborated his report. He had Jagaman travel with him in South India recently, but said that the boy could not be disciplined in any regard. Jagadish suggested two alternatives for dealing with him. I was thinking to make an example of him. Either we should beat him or send him back. Prabhupada, remaining consistent in his opposition to corporal punishment for the Gurukula children, was not in favor of physical correction and offered another alternative. No, then he should be sent back. Or if he can be sent to Bombay to work ordinarily, or Hyderabad farm, like that, let him work on the ground. On hearing that Jagaman spoke Bengali, Prabhupada suggested that he could be sent back to Mayapur to join the preaching party under Bhavananda Maharaj. But Rupa Vilas said that Bhavananda had had enough of him and did not want him back. In Hyderabad, also, Yashodananda said he had caused such a disturbance in the recent temple opening that they could probably also not want him back. It was a dilemma with no easy solution, and Jagadish pushed several times for making an example of him through some corporal punishment. The thing is, if we beat him here and keep him here, then all the boys will straighten up, because they will see that if they go bad, then this will be their punishment. Prabhupada, although quoting the Sanskrit equivalent of the Latin phrase argumentum ad debaculum, to deal with a fool you had to use a stick, still felt that this should be only a last resort, as you think you can do. But I wanted to engage in farm work, in digging. Yashodananda agreed, yes, that is his propensity. Actually, it is a fact. When he was with me, I would try to teach him Ishopanishad and your purports, which are so clear and simple. But after 3 or 4 times explaining the same thing, he would become angry to receive the instruction. No, Prabhupada agreed. He is meant for Shudra's work. You cannot expect that everyone is Brahmana. No, he has got Shudra mentality. So let him till the ground for Krishna. Swakarmana tam adyachaya. He is fit for tilling. So let him till and produce grain for Krishna. In Hyderabad, Jagadish asked, yes, hard work. He should be given hard work. This Gurukula is for high-class Brahmana, Kshatriya, not for the Vaishyas and Shudras. Everyone is required for Krishna's service. But there are, that I was describing today, there must be division. They mention another 8-year-old boy who is a similar problem. His father had left him at the school for a few days, but he has not the slightest interest in learning. He is not interested in education. Not at all, Bhagaji said. If the father takes care, that's all right, Prabhupada said. Otherwise, he can go to Hyderabad. Hyderabad should be for grihastas, for plowing, for growing and flowers like that. No education required. That is a waste of time. For such boys who are not interested, why they should be enforced education? They are not meant for that. Education is for higher brain, sober brain, and not that everyone has to become literate. It is not required. He can do other work. Yes. Any questions? Or comments? Du siehst so aus, als würdest du gerne was sagen.
Ja, es gibt immer Störungen.
Bitte?
Sogar im Geist. Nee, also es gibt halt immer Störungen. Auch solche Fälle gibt es fast überall.
Ja.
In jedem Jahr immer mal wieder so. Also vielleicht als Prüfung, ich weiß nicht genau.
Wenn das Kinder sind, ist es ein bisschen kompliziert. Ne? Aber wenn das Erwachsene sind, Prabhupada hat mal gesagt, our temples are not for lazies and crazies. Aber wenn das Kinder von Devotees sind, ist es sehr kompliziert. Ja, man weiß nie, wie die Kinder ausfallen, die man hat. Ja, Tatsache. Aber Prabhupada sagt ja auch eine sehr interessante Sache. Ne? Er sagt, im Grunde ist unsere Ausbildung hier im Krishna-Bewusstsein Brahminical. Ja, zum Beispiel jetzt hören wir wieder Philosophie von Caitanya Caritamrita oder Bhagavad Gita hören wir. Wir lernen Verse auswendig, versuchen die Philosophie des Krishna-Bewusstseins zu praktizieren und zu predigen. Und Prabhupada sagt, das ist Brahminical Work. Brahminische Beschäftigung. Ja? Und das kann nicht jeder. Auch unter den Devotees sehen wir das. Ja? Aber weil da Devotion ist, wie sagt man, Hingabe ist, kann man die beschäftigen. Es gibt Devotees, die geben keine Klassen. Ja? Aber die sind in irgendeiner anderen Weise wertvoll. Ja. Das ist eine Frage von gutem Management. Es gibt die wohl, sie haben große Schwierigkeiten, Philosophie wie sagt man, zu assimilieren, sagt man Deutsch? Ja, ja, Philosophie zu assimilieren. Ja, aber in extremen Fällen, ne, wenn jemand absolut nicht die Qualitäten hat und auch nicht in Harmonie leben kann, ne, mit den Devotis, dann ist es besser, die leben ihr eigenes Leben und geben vielleicht Spenden, ne, oder helfen in irgendeiner anderen Weise, funktionell irgendwas. Ne. Wenn Sie zum Beispiel bei der Steuerbehörde arbeiten, dann können Sie uns helfen mit unseren rechtlichen Sachen und so weiter. Ne? Wenn jemand, wie Prabhupada sagt, hier kräftig ist, ne, aber nicht, wie sagt man, nicht sehr sozial ist, dann ist es besser, der hat seine Arbeit auf dem Feld, pflügt und arbeitet mit den Eseln. Hier gibt es keine Esel. In Südamerika arbeiten die Leute immer mit Eseln und Ochsen, ne, wenn sie pflügen. Das ist eine harte Arbeit. Ja? Es gibt Leute, die sind einfach mehr angezogen zu solchen Arten von Dingen, als für den feineren, wie sagt man, den feineren Aspekt des Lebens. Ja, dass wir zum Beispiel die 4 Regeln Prinzipien befolgen, das ist brahminisch. Ja, das ist brahminisch. Und wer das nicht kann, der hat nicht die gleiche Möglichkeit. Noch ein Kommentar dazu, eine Frage oder so? War das okay, was ich gesagt habe? Dann gehen wir weiter zum Chaitanya Caritamrita. Srila Prabhupada ki. So, wir sind beim Chaitanya Caritamrita. Was ist das noch für ein Vers jetzt? Ist der 55, 56? Stimmt?
Ja, richtig. Ja.
Ja? Okay. Wie war noch der Mantra? Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Bueno, dann fangen wir an. Wir sind hier im Chaitanya Caritamrita, Adi Lila. Also das heißt der Anfangsteil des Chaitanya Caritamrita. Adi bedeutet Beginn, Madhya bedeutet Mitte und Antya bedeutet das Ende. So, wir sind noch im ersten Teil des Chaitanya Caritamrita. Sanyasa kariyaya prabhu nichale kaela.
Sanyasa kariyaya prabhu nichale kaela.
Tata haite yave kuliya grama aila.
Tata haite yave kuliya grama aila.
Tave se papi pabura lalila sharana.
Tave se papi pabura lalila sharana.
Gita upadesha kaila haiya karuna.
Gita upadesha kaila haiya karuna.
Sanyasa kariyaya prabhu nichale gela.
Sanyasa kariyaya prabhu nichale gela.
Tata haite yave kuliya grame haida.
Tata haite yave kuliya grame haida.
Tabe se papi pabura la ila sharana.
Tabe se papi pabura la ila sharana.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Haite Yaba Kuliya Grame Aila.
Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tabe se papi Prabhura la ila sharana.
Tabe se papi pabura la ila sharana.
Hita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Tata Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tata Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tabe se papi Prabhura la ila sharana.
Tabe se papi pabura la ila sharana.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Tata Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tata Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tabe se papi Prabhura la ila sharana.
Tabe se papi Prabhura la ila sharana.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Ladies, die Damen.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Tata Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tata Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tabe se papi pabura la ila sharana.
Tabe se papi pabura la ila sharana.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu Nilachale Gela.
Sanya Sakariya Yabe Prabhu
Nilachale Gela.
Tata Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tata Haite Yabe Kuliya Grame Aila.
Tabe se papi Prabhura la ila sharana.
Tabe se papi pabura la ila sharana.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna.
Ita upadesha kaila ha iya karuna. Sanya Sakariya.
Sanya Sakariya.
After, oh, ich habe gar nicht gefragt. Englisch oder Deutsch heute?
Deutsch.
Deutsch?
Oder haben Sie Englisch?
Ich habe du musst jetzt einstellen hier in Deutsch. Deutsch oder Englisch? Was ist
Sie wollen
die?
Maharaj, was ist für Sie
Ha?
das? Was ist für Sie das?
Für mich ist besser Englisch.
Ja, dann machen wir
Ja,
Englisch.
okay. Yabe.
Yahweh.
When?
When?
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Nilachale.
Nilachale.
To Jagannath Puri.
Jagannath Puri.
Gela.
Gela.
Went.
Went.
Tata Haite.
Tata Haite.
From there. Yabe, when, Kuliya, of the name Kuliya, Grame, to the village, Aila, came back, Tabe, at that time, say, that, Papi, sinful man, Prabhuda, of the Lord, Laila, took, Sharana, shelter, Hita, beneficial, Upadesha, advice, Kaila, gave, Haiya, becoming, Karuna, merciful. Translation. When Sri Caitanya, after accepting the renounced sort of life, went to Jagannath Puri and then came back to the village of Kuliya, upon his return, that sinful man took shelter at the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord, being merciful to him, gave him instructions for his benefit. Purport. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his Anubhasya, has given the following note in connection with the village Kuliya. The village, originally known as Kuliya, has developed into what is now the city of Navadvip. In various authorized books like the Bhakti Ratnakara, Caitanya Charita Mahakavya, Caitanya Chandrodaya Nataka, and Caitanya Bhagavat, it is mentioned that the village of Kuliya is on the western side of the Ganges. Even now, within the area known as Koladvipa, there is a place known as Kuliya Ganja and a place called Kuliyara Daha, both within the jurisdiction of the present municipality of Navadvip. In the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the two villages on the western side of the Ganges, named Kuliya and Pahadapura, both belonged to the jurisdiction of Bahiradvipa. At that time, the place on the eastern side of the Ganges, now known as Antardvipa, was known as Navadvipa. At that time, the place on the eastern side of the Ganges, now known as Antardvipa, was known as Navadvipa. At Sri Mayapur, that place is still known as Dvipeda Mata. There is another place of the name Kuliya near Kanchadapada, but it is not the same Kuliya mentioned here. It cannot be accepted as Aparada Banjaneda Pata, or the place where the offense was executed. For that occurrence in the above-mentioned Kuliya on the western side of the Ganges, for business reasons, many envious persons oppose excavation of the real place, and sometimes they advertise unauthorized places as the authorized one. So the pastime was that, this person that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met here, as mentioned, had committed a great offense against the devotees. And then when he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, something amazing, at least for me amazing, happened. That he understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the Supreme Lord. That means he was not really an ordinary person. And then he asked for forgiveness from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for having committed this offense against the devotees. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't accept it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry. He said, "You'll be born 1,000,000 times," or something like that again. Why does he react like that? We heard that he reacted like this because that person was not really serious. He was just wanting to become freed of that offense, of the result of the offense, to go on with his ordinary life, not as a devotee. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't forgive him. This is something very, very important. That when we commit an offense, we should feel that by the reactions of this offense, this will become a great obstacle in our spiritual life. As we always hear, every morning we hear, every second day we hear, every second morning we hear about the 10 offenses. And the first offense, or the most serious offense, even compared with the mad elephant offense, is committing offenses against devotees. One time Prabhupada said that, well, first of all, Chaitanya Caritamrita says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains this actually, I don't know to who, that this offense is like an elephant offense. Like the elephant comes into the garden and without any intention, bad intention, he tramples everything down, destroys the whole garden because he's so big and his foot are so wide. Just by being there, he destroys. But then Prabhupada said, mad elephant. Not just an ordinary elephant. Prabhupada explained that sometimes the elephants become intoxicated by drinking, there's a palm juice, very, very sweet palm juice. And the problem with this palm juice is, as soon as you extract it, it's actually extracted from the stem. What is that? From the trunk. It's very, very sweet. But due to the heat, it goes bad, becomes alcoholized, becomes intoxicating. And Prabhupada said sometimes the elephants drink that and become intoxicated. And they move crazily and scream like that and everything. So this is compared to the mad elephant. This is the explanation of the mad elephant. Anyway, so this is the biggest offense that we can commit. Because the devotees are so dear to Krishna, Krishna doesn't tolerate this offense. And these people are punished. Just like, what is that? This is Amoga. The history of Amoga is mentioned in the Chaitanya Caritamrita. Amoga. He was married with a daughter of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Remember Sarvabhauma had become a devotee by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. He was a teacher and he had a very strong attraction to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a mercy felt to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he saw that this sannyasi was so young and so beautiful, he feared that this is going to be having a problem, big problem in the future. So he offered his education to Sarvabhauma. So then he had, while he associated with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became a devotee. And he became a very important devotee. Like we heard the other day, somebody was mentioning that when Sarvabhauma became a devotee, he was a very famous scholar. And from all over India, students would come to study logic under Sarvabhauma. He was not a very ordinary person. He was actually the pandit of King Prataparudra in Jagannath Puri. And anyway, so he had a Schwiegersohn. What is that? Son-in-law. Son-in-law. And this Amoga had one quality. He was very envious of the devotees. Always looking for faults at the devotees. And even in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So one day, Sarvabhauma invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to eat at his house. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very strict in reference to his sannyas ashram. So he thought that, well, if I go to his house, he probably make a big feast for me. And if anybody gets to know about that, they will criticize me for being a sannyasi who eats a lot. Takes advantage of the invitations of the grihastas to just fill the stomach unlimitedly. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't want to go. He said, no, if I go to your home, your wife is gonna cook a big feast, and I don't want to have a big feast. So, but then Samabhadacharya insisted, and finally Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted. So, because Amoga was also there, so Samabhadacharya thought, now, no, he made a big effort to have the door closed properly so nobody can come in. And even he put a stick on the side of the door in case of Amoga would appear. He had a stick to beat him, throw him out of the house. Yeah. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he sat down and they started serving him a very nice feast. And he didn't really, when Chaitanya, even also Prabhupada or other great Vaishnavas, they're not so attracted to the opulence, but to the devotion of people, of the devotees. We might not be very expert in what we know or what we do, but if there's bhakti, it's just accepted. There's a very nice example that I will tell a little later. So when he was starting to eat, and all of a sudden the door opened. Bah! Amoga was there. Immediately Amoga, seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking prasad, he said, "What is this? A sannyasi eating a feast like that?" So then Samabhadacharya got the stick and ran behind him, but because Amoga was very young and Samabhadacharya was pretty old already, he couldn't reach him. And he came back. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting observing the scene. And he kind of, he didn't say anything. He just got up and left, went to his place. And after a while, he heard from, I don't remember the name anymore, a devotee who was also a family member of Samabhadacharya. He was a very nice devotee. So he told him, Amoga is in very bad shape. He's got cholera, and he is almost dying, giving up his body. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that, and Samabhadacharya, then he also told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Samabhadacharya and his wife are fasting. Since you were there, they didn't eat anything anymore because of the offense committed against you at their home. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that, he went to see Amoga. So Amoga was laying, and he was very sick. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to him, Amoga, how is it possible? A Brahmana, a person like you, born in a Brahmin family, whose heart is supposed to be very pure, very clean. How is it that your heart has become so contaminated? And Amoga prayed to Chaitanya, please free me, excuse me for the offense committed against you. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu put his hand on him. And he told him, get up and chant Hare Krishna. So Amoga got up and chanted Hare Krishna, and unnecessary to say that he got cured. And then he went back to Samabhadacharya and said some things, very nice, very interesting things. He said, actually, Amoga, as a family, one of your family members, he is a very special person, and you shouldn't have become so angry with him, because he's how I say, shwaga. What is that? son-in-law, and I had already forgiven him just simply because he's one of your family members. Anyway, so this was interesting. And the other story that I wanted to tell a little later is that how important it is the attitude of the devotees. Devotees might not be very expert in so many details and might not have so much experience of life or something like that. They might not be great experts, but the most important quality of a devotee is a devotion. When they do things with devotion, that's a question of time, and Krishna also will correct everything else, will give them the necessary intelligence, and all the elements will manifest to carry out the service. Anyway, so the story goes, there was a Grihastha couple, and they were very much, very devoted to Krishna. And because of that, one day, all of a sudden, Krishna appeared at their home. When they saw Krishna, they paid obeisances and immediately wanted to give something to Krishna. They ran to the kitchen to find something to offer to Krishna. And they found a banana. And they peeled the banana and gave it to Krishna. But when Krishna received it, they noticed, wow, we gave them the peel instead of the banana. And they saw Krishna was eating the peel of the banana with so much joy, so much satisfaction. Why? Because it had been offered with so much devotion. So this is actually what Krishna accepts. When it's done with devotion, Krishna accepts. Even though, he even says in the Bhagavad Gita, if one offers me a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I accept. And that's just, when it's offered with devotion, Krishna accepts. I remember there was a story that when Parvati was very, very sick, he was already in Vrindavan, the last time of Parvati in Vrindavan, and somebody brought him a scarf and a letter from a girl in New Vrindavan. And actually, this girl had not been very important. I mean, she was not expert in anything else, but she had made a nice scarf for Srila Prabhupada and written a very nice letter to Srila Prabhupada. And when Prabhupada got this scarf, Prabhupada became emotional, very emotional, because of the words of the letter. I don't remember what exactly she wrote, and the way she had offered this scarf to Srila Prabhupada. So it's not a matter of big material education or qualities that one has to have to please Krishna, but the most important thing is love, affection, love. That we do something with devotion. And like I mentioned before, when this happens, it's just a question of time that Krishna gives the necessary intelligence and also all the elements necessary for that particular service that devotee is doing. So with these devotees, we should be very, very careful. Very, very careful. Even those new devotees, not just with the senior devotees, but with every devotee. Like I mentioned many times, whoever comes to the temple and is interested in Krishna consciousness or attracted to Krishna consciousness, the Prabhupada used to say they're very special persons. And we have to treat them very nicely. We have to teach them how to do things in Krishna consciousness with tact, not forcing them to do things. It's just a question of time, because we are just supposed to be like there's an English expression now, facilitate. What is that? Facilitator. Just like no, there's a bicycle, how you say, web competition, or whatever there is, no, and sometimes on the side of the road there are people who give them water or give them things, and they avoid staying on the way, of these people. But on the side, we're supposed to help. As the devotee we're supposed to help, whoever is attracted to Krishna consciousness or takes up the devotional service, and not see them as ordinary persons. That's how Prabhupada used to see. In the beginning, when Srila Prabhupada came to America and the first disciples came to Prabhupada, sometimes Prabhupada mentioned that they had been sent by his spiritual master, or they had been devotees in former lives. That's how Prabhupada appreciated those people who would come. And in the beginning, I remember, in the beginning when somebody left the movement or left the temple, there was not a movement like nowadays. It was very, very, very small, everything, and very few devotees. And sometimes when some devotee had a problem and left, Prabhupada became emotional, and he used to tell the devotees, "Go and get him back. See what his problem is." And of course, then so many devotees came, and there was Prabhupada didn't. At least, from our limited point of view, Prabhupada was, how you say, retracting. How is it in English?
A little bit aloof.
Yeah, Prabhupada was aloof and more aloof, and he let his disciples take care of the affairs, ISKCON affairs. In the beginning, the relationship with Srila Prabhupada is very much more personal. When there were just a few devotees, like I mentioned sometimes, that also in Hamburg, our first temple, when Prabhupada came to Germany, after he left and initiated devotees, he was very eager to get letters from them, and he would ask, why isn't he writing? Or when letters came to the temple from Srila Prabhupada, and whenever a letter came, you couldn't hide it. Because Prabhupada's letters were very important for everybody. Like I remember there was a devotee, and he came he was a Bhakta from London. He came to Germany, and he also wrote letters, like everybody writing letters to Srila Prabhupada. And he asked Prabhupada, when we take a shower, should we benutzen Waschlappen oder ein Schwamm? And Prabhupada answered that question. I don't remember what the answer, but even that. Of course, as the movement grew more and more, Prabhupada rejected more and more. In the beginning, everyone would go out on the morning walks with Srila Prabhupada. There was no kind of limitation or discrimination. But then later, only the leaders were supposed to allow to go, or you had to have a very special service, or you had to have done something very special to Srila Prabhupada, or for Srila Prabhupada. So these, coming back to the point here, Caitanya Mahaprabhu also became very, very angry, when he heard about the offense committed by this person. And now he's coming back. And now the situation is different. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu saw a change of attitude. Shivas, wo waren wir? 58? Was war das?
55.
55, 56, ne? Yeah. So we continue. Srivasa panditera stane ache aparadha tataya haten hoyari karina pasada tabetora habe e papa vimochana Yari punai chena hikara achana acharana. You have committed an offense at the lotus feet of Srivas Thakur, the Lord said. First you must go there and beg for his mercy. And then, if he gives you his blessings and you do not commit such sins again, you will be freed from these reactions. No? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent him back to ask for forgiveness directly, no? By the devotee he committed the offense to. Tabe viprala ila ase shivasa sharana tanhara kripaya haira papa vipochana. Then the Brahmana Gopal Chapala went to Srivas Thakur and took shelter of his lotus feet. And by Srivas Thakur's mercy, he was freed from all sinful reactions. There's also a pastime of Haridas Thakur. It's mentioned in Chaitanya Caritamrita that Haridas Thakur was also offended by a person. And Prabhupada is explaining in this connection that it's not so easy. We should take it very serious when we go and ask for forgiveness. And not do it simply as a formality. Prabhu, entschuldige, Jai, Haribo. No, it should actually be coming from the heart. Maybe you heard this already. I mentioned a personal experience once. At that time, we were preaching in the communist countries, undercover. And normally we went always by two devotees, groups of two devotees. And at one point I traveled with an American devotee who later on took sannyas. And we went out. And sooner or later I realized that this devotee knew everything better than me. Everything. He sang very nicely. He played instruments much better than me. He was very expert in presenting the philosophy. He knows so many verses and everything. And I was just like I became more envious by the minute. And it became a very difficult situation because when you commit offenses against devotees, it's like a dark clouds or something are covering you. You can't, you can't do things properly anymore. Krishna also cuts your intelligence, or you become foolish, tolpachik. I don't know how it's in English. Yeah. So then we came back, and Harikesh was our guide of this preaching program in the East. And then, I felt so bad. I went to Harikesh and told him what had happened. And he told me, immediately go, pay obeisances to the devotee, and honestly ask him for forgiveness from your heart. So I went in the room. I touched his feet. He didn't know what was going on. And I asked him, I became so emotional, I started crying, asking him for forgiveness. And he, of course, he forgave me. And I remember when I came out of that room, I was almost flying. I was so light. That's just a personal experience. Maybe you heard about it already. Anyway, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also sent him. It just reminded me of that example. He also sent him to Srivas Thakur. And Srivas Thakur, of course, immediately forgave. But what I wanted to mention actually was Haridas Thakur. I didn't tell the whole thing. It says that there was a man who was very, very offensive against Haridas Thakur. He criticized him. You know, Haridas Thakur had spoken about the potency of the holy name. You know, that whatever you do, whoever you are, if you chant Hare Krishna, become liberated from the sinful reactions and all this. And there was a man who, hearing this, he started criticizing Haridas Thakur. You know? And he even said, if this is not true, I will cut, I don't remember what, his nose or his ears or something like that, was it?
You were having a discussion, and Haridas said, he disagreed with Haridas Thakur, and Haridas Thakur said, okay, then if I'm wrong, then let my nose fall off.
Yes, he said, yeah, my nose will fall off. Yeah. And then right after that, this person became very, very sick. And he asked for Haridas Thakur for forgiveness. But it's mentioned in Chaitanya Caritamrita, he didn't take it sufficient serious. And that's why the explanation there is that it actually has to come from the heart. We have to take this very, very serious, when we commit offenses like that. Otherwise, it's not forgiven. The person might forget. Haridas Thakur would forgive because he's a very, very merciful person. But Krishna doesn't forgive. Krishna, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sent this offender to Srivas Thakur, and he told him, if he forgives, I will forgive. Yeah. Any questions in regards to that? Huh? Yeah?
Хорошо. Кришна говорит, что он не друг и не враг никому. Как Кришна не может простить?
Krishna sagt in der Bhagavad Gita, ich bin weder Freund noch Feind zu jedem. Warum kann er nicht verzeihen?
Krishna sagt in der Bhagavad Gita, ich beneide niemanden. Aber jemand, der mir mit Liebe dient, wird mein Freund. Was ist deine Frage dazu?
Почему Кришна не может простить? Он не враг, не друг, он нейтрально относится к этому. Почему Кришна не может простить?
Warum kann Krishna nicht verzeihen? Er ist sozusagen neutral, unparteiisch. Also der ist...
Weil das größte Vergehen ist, wenn man Vaishnavas, seine geliebten Devotees, wie sagt man, offended, wie sagt man Deutsch? Anyway, yeah. Yes. Das vergibt Krishna nicht. Und das ist genau, was wir auch gelesen haben in den vorherigen Lektüren des Chaitanya Caritamrita. Dass diese Person, die suchte Zuflucht bei Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Und Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wurde zornig. Er sagte nicht, ist schon alles klar, vergiss es. Ne? Ich vergib dir. Ne? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hat das sehr, sehr ernst genommen, die Vergehen gegen sein Gottgewalt. Ja? Und wenn Krishna in der Bhagavad Gita sagt, dass er neutral ist und niemand beneidet, das heißt, dass es keine Dualität gibt da. Ne? Sagt er trotzdem, dass meine Gottgewalt eine intime Beziehung zu mir haben. Ja? Das heißt, Krishna hat uns so geschaffen, dass wir ein gewisses Maß an Unabhängigkeit haben. Und Krishna mischt sich nicht in unsere Unabhängigkeit. Er nimmt uns niemals diese Unabhängigkeit, diese freie Entscheidung. Im Grunde besteht unsere freie Entscheidung nur darin, uns entweder Krishna zu ergeben oder nicht. Wenn wir uns Krishna ergeben, läuft das alles ab, durch die Barmherzigkeit Krishnas. Ja, wenn wir uns Krishna nicht ergeben, dann stehen wir unter der Kontrolle der Erscheinungsweise der materiellen Natur. Und dann mischt sich Krishna nicht ein. Krishna beobachtet uns nur. Wenn wir sündhafte Handlungen begehen, mischt sich Krishna nicht ein. Sondern Krishna wartet nur auf das Moment, wo wir ihm ein bisschen Aufmerksamkeit geben. Und wir gehen einen Schritt in Richtung Krishna. Krishna kommt uns 100 oder noch mehr Schritte entgegen. Weil er unser Schicksal besser kennt als wir selbst. Der kennt die ganze Geschichte, unsere ganze Geschichte. Leben nach Leben nach Leben. Hat Krishna sich im Herzen befunden und uns beobachtet. Der kennt uns besser als unsere besten Freunde, unsere Familie oder was immer. Ne? Oder der Secret Service. Ne? Der Geheimdienst und so weiter. Krishna kennt uns besser. Und er ist der ewige Zeuge. Sarvasya Chahamridi Sanivishtos Miti Gyanam Apahanam. Krishna sagt, ich befinde mich im Herzen aller Leben, aller Wesen. Von mir kommt Erinnern, Wissen und Vergessen. Ja? Krishna mischt sich da nicht ein. Aber so wie wir Krishna ein bisschen Aufmerksamkeit geben, so wie zum Beispiel eure Harinam-Gruppe gestern. Ne? Ne? Das ist sehr, sehr, sehr spirituell, rauszugehen und die heiligen Namen zu chanten, als Gottgeweihte sich zu präsentieren in der Öffentlichkeit. Deshalb ist es so wichtig, dass wir Sari und Dodi tragen, damit die Leute damit das klar ist, wer wir sind. Ja? Und wenn die Leute uns sehen, ja? Und wenn sie uns hören, machen sie einen kleinen Schritt vorwärts. Wie sagt man, einen kleinen Schritt in Richtung Krishna. Ja? Und wir sehen, ne, dass die Menschen verschieden reagieren. Da gibt es Leute, die sind sofort, oh, was ist das denn? Interessant, was singen die denn da? Weshalb kleiden die sich denn so? Was haben die denn auf der Nase? Ne? Da gibt es Leute, die gehen da vorbei und ein bisschen sind zu stolz. Ja. Und da gibt es Leute, die werden sofort ärgerlich. Sekte! Früher haben sie gesagt, wenn wir Harinam gemacht haben, wenn Hitler noch da wäre, dann gäbe es euch nicht. Die gibt es heute wahrscheinlich nicht mehr, Relation gewesen. Ne? Aber alle, die hören, die heiligen Namen hören, die Devotees sehen, die vielleicht, wenn sie vielleicht sogar Passaden bekommen haben und so weiter, die machen riesen Fortschritt. Die machen viel Fortschritt. Ja, zum Beispiel unsere Nachbarn, die haben sich schon daran gewöhnt. Ja? Früher haben sie die Polizei geholt, dann kam die Polizei, wenn wir Kirtan gemacht haben hier, weil das zu laut war. Ne? Ja? Heute ruft keiner mehr die Polizei. Ja? Das ist erstaunlich, diese Entwicklung. Weshalb? Weil das Herz mehr und mehr gereinigt wird von den Leuten. Das Herz wird weicher und weicher und weicher. Ja? Und wir gehören schon zur Nachbarschaft. Ja? Das haben wir zum Beispiel auch gesehen, als wir unseren Tempel in Buenos Aires eröffnet haben. Nach der Militärdiktatur haben wir dann plötzlich einen Tempel gehabt, ne? eröffnet. Und da haben wir auch jeden Tag gechantet, und weil das immer so warm ist, die Fenster offen, ne, wenn wir Kirtan gemacht haben. Ne? Und die ganzen Nachbarn haben täglich Kirtan gehört. Ne? Und wir gehörten schon zur Nachbarschaft. Hare Krishna, ja. Wenn da jemand kam und fragte, ist hier ein Tempel? Ja, klar, da geht er hin. Auch die Polizei, und alle wussten, dass wir einen Tempel haben. Ne? Die Polizei mussten wir kultivieren, die sind nicht so wie hier. Ne? Hier ist alles sehr gesetzmäßig. Ne? Oder im Ausland haben die Deutschen zum Beispiel den Ruf, dass jeder Deutsch ein Polizist ist. Ne? Dass sie alle sich strikt an die Gesetze halten und mit der Polizei zusammenarbeiten und so. Ne? Ne? Aber zum Beispiel in Argentinien, da muss man die Polizei kultivieren. Bevor die Sanke wo die Bücher verteilen können in einem Ort, gehen sie erstmal zur Polizei, geben denen ein bisschen Passaden, ne? Und verschenken ein paar Bücher und so. Und dann bekommen sie die Erlaubnis. Ne? Da war zum Beispiel auch dann suchten wir ein Buchlager von BWT. Ne? Und dann ist die Besitzerin von dem BWT, die ist zur Polizei gegangen, hat sich erkundigt, ne? was die Hare Krishnas sind und so weiter. Und weil die Prasadam genommen hatten und so weiter, ne, hatten die eine ganz andere Haltung. Die sagten nur, ja, das sind nice Leute, die haben viel Geld. Und das war genau das, was die hören musste, um uns das Buchlager zu vermieten. Das ist etwas ganz Natürliches, ne? Weil die Leute, die mit den Devotees zu tun haben, ne, weil die alle ihre kleinen Schritte machen in Richtung Krishna, dass sie zu Devotee werden. Ne? Die mögen sich nicht gleich ergeben, aber zumindest, dass sie die Devotees, dass sie schon zum Stadtbild gehören dazu. Ne? Zum Beispiel, ich habe das gesehen hier in Köln, da gibt es viele Leute, wenn die Devotees singen, die gucken nur einmal und dann gehen sie weiter. Ne? Das ist schon so, das gehört schon dazu. Ne? Das kennen sie schon. Ne? Ne? Während wenn du irgendwo hingehst, wo sie noch nichts kennen, dann kommen sie und gucken immer wieder, ne? Weil sie es noch nicht kennen. Anyway, mal wieder zurück zum Thema hier. Wie lange machen wir die Klasse eigentlich?
Ja, wir haben später angefangen.
Und?
Ja.
Noch eine Stunde.
Wer hat das gesagt? Ja, noch eine Frage vielleicht zu dem, was ich ausgeführt habe. Habe ich deine Frage beantwortet? Habe ich deine Frage, deinen Zweifel? Noch nicht, ja? Gut, versuch's nochmal.
Я думаю, просто я понял, просто я сбалансировал. Махарадж, вас это порадует. Многих мавзолеев, Гуру Парампара, потом Махараджи, но стоит изображение Харикеш с вами, молится, чтобы вернулся.
Vielleicht wird es Sie erfreuen, bei vielen Devotees, da wo Guru Parampara steht, steht auch Harikesh Swamis Bild und sie beten darum, dass er zurückkommt.
Ja.
Молится, чтобы вернулся.
Ja. Naja. Dass Krishna ihn von innen her inspirieren soll, dass er wieder sich an Krishna erinnert. Im Grunde ist er nicht mehr so agnostisch. Wie sagt man agnostisch in Deutsch? So feindlich. Sondern er ist schon wieder in Gemeinschaft mit den Devotees. Was immer. Ne? Aber er ist schon wieder, hat schon wieder ein bisschen mehr Gemeinschaft mit den Devotees. Im Grunde hat er so viel für uns, also ich weiß nicht mit euch, ihr kennt ihn ja die meisten schon gar nicht mehr. Ja, aber zum Beispiel in meinem Fall hat er sehr viel gemacht für mich. Hat mir sehr geholfen im Krishna-Bewusstsein. Das habe ich ja auch mit Hansu Duda erlebt. Ne? Hansu Duda war vor vielen, vielen Jahren war unser Führer, GBC, auch hier in Deutschland. Und von dem haben wir so viel gelernt. Und irgendwann ist er dann, hat er Probleme bekommen und so weiter und so weiter. Und dann war er draußen und wurde sehr, sehr kritisch gegenüber ISKCON und so weiter. Und dann habe ich gehört von einer Gottschwester von mir, dass er sehr, sehr krank war. Und dass er im Begriff war, seinen Körper aufzugeben. Und da habe ich mich bei ihm bedankt, dafür, dass er mir so viel geholfen in meinem spirituellen Leben. Das ist etwas, was wir niemals vergessen sollten. Ne? Das, was die Devotees für uns getan haben. Die mögen Schwierigkeiten haben oder gehen und so weiter. Ne? Aber letztlich sollten wir das Ganze anders sehen, mit anderen Augen sehen. Ist das okay? Aber? Ach, kein Aber.
An dieser Stelle, ich erinnere mich...
in Russland, ne? In Russland?
In
Moldawien. Moldova? Ah ja, okay.
У нас много учеников бывших практически.
Bist du von Moldova?
Er ist von Moldova.
Er ist von Moldova.
Wir haben sehr
Moldova
viele
Ke? ISKCON Moldova Ke? Wenn Moldova so wunderbare Devotees hervorbringt wie dich, das ist ein ganz besonderer Platz. Ne? Oder?
Vrindavan Dham ki jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki?
Ja.
Ja. Aber Prabhupada hat doch gesagt, dass unsere Tempel sind auch nur heilige Plätze. Und Prabhupada hat immer davon gesprochen, dass er sich immer, habe ich gerade wieder gehört, Prabhupada hat immer gesagt, I'm always in Vrindavan. Ich bin immer in Vrindavan. Da erklärt der Prabhupada, wie wichtig ist, dass man das entsprechende Bewusstsein hat in Krishna als Devotee. Ja, dass man nämlich, obgleich man in dieser Umgebung ist, wie zum Beispiel hier in Köln, ja, dass wir im Grunde als Devotees gar nicht in Köln sind. Wir haben ein ganz anderes Bewusstsein. Ja? Und was bedeutet das? Dass wir Krishna bewusst sind. Dass es eine ganz andere Ebene ist. Das ist ein ganz anderes Bewusstsein. Ja? Je mehr wir uns im hingebungsvollen Dienst beschäftigen, je mehr festigen wir uns in dieser Position, dass wir transzendental sind. Ja. Bauer hat gesagt, diese Tempel sind wie die Botschaften der spirituellen Welt. Habe ich vor kurzem auch erwähnt. Botschaft der spirituellen Welt. Ja. Zum Beispiel, wenn wir in eine Botschaft gehen, von irgendeinem ausländischen oder von irgendeinem Land, was ein bisschen anders ist als hier, nicht so mitteleuropäisch, zum Beispiel so in die japanische Botschaft. Dann hängen dann Bilder von den japanischen Vulkanen und von Geishas an der Wand und so. Ja. Und die essen mit Stäbchen. Obgleich die in Deutschland sind. Ja. Haben sie in gewisser Weise, und das ist auch, zum Beispiel in diesen Botschaften, da gibt es auch Asylanten, die wollen von den Deutschen sich von der deutschen Gesetzgebung befreien und gehen von den Botschaften. Weil die deutschen Gesetze, die sind nicht, die gelten nicht in den Botschaften, den ausländischen Botschaften. Die haben sogar ihre eigene Polizei, ihre eigenen Gesetze in diesen Botschaften. Aber um das zu erreichen, dass das wirklich eine Botschaft der spirituellen Welt ist, sollten wir strikte Devotees sein. Wir sollten so viel wie möglich uns absorbieren im Krishna, im hingebungsvollen Dienst, wie zum Beispiel unser Devotee hier. Der arbeitet Tag und Nacht da oben. Und wofür? Nicht, weil er ein riesiges Gehalt kriegt, sondern weil das hingebungsvoller Dienst ist. Oder? Ich weiß nicht, wie das geregelt ist zwischen euch.
Ich bekomme ein riesiges Gehalt.
Ja, aber wir haben dich, wir wertschätzen dich als Helfer hier. Ja? Weil du machst nicht nur harte Arbeit da oben, du sitzt auch in der Klasse. Du singst Samsara morgens. Ja? Isst Prasadam. Ja? Bist du reichlich Prasadam hier? Ja? Zufrieden? Okay. Okay, machen wir Schluss. Srila Prabhupada, geht!
Jai! Maharaj ki Jai!
Too emotional, no?
That's good.
No?
I like it. Always good.